I almost reported my own mother to Adult Protective Services. It sounds terrible to admit that now, but at the time, I genuinely thought I was trying to save her. We were sitting in her apartment on a rainy Thursday afternoon, sorting through a mountain of paperwork. She had just missed another doctor's appointment because she couldn't afford the copay, and I was trying to help her budget. My mother, Diane, is 70 years old. For 32 years, she worked as a cafeteria lady in a public elementary, school packing lunches for other people's children while skipping meals herself more times than she'd ever admit. Today, she lives alone in a modest one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, surviving on Social Security and a tiny pension that barely covers rent. The place always smells faintly of floral detergent and tomato soup. Her furniture is old but spotless, and the same faded blue quilt from my childhood always lay perfectly folded over the arm of her couch. She still wears heavy sweaters indoors because she refuses to turn up the heat. Knowing all of this, the receipts I found made absolutely no sense. Every month, like clockwork, there were cash withdrawals. Exactly 89 United States dollars and 50 cents. Every Friday. For nearly 8 years. It added up to thousands of dollars, money she absolutely did not have. At first, my mind raced to scams. Then I worried someone was extorting or stealing from her. When I gently asked her about the withdrawals, she immediately reached for the papers. She moved too quickly? Dad left those? She asked. No. Then leave them alone. Her voice wasn't angry. It was terrified, and that scared me even more. Mom, where is the money going? I pressed. She folded the papers with trembling hands. I spend it on things. What things? She stood up, signaling the conversation was over. The Friday routine. For the next week, the mystery consumed me. My wife thought I was overreacting, but I had watched my mother choose generic cereal to save $2. I had seen her painstakingly sew buttons back on too. Winter coats instead of replacing them. If she was bleeding nearly $90 a week, something was terribly wrong. The following Friday, I did something I felt ridiculous doing. I followed her, feeling like a cheap private investigator. I trailed her as she took the bus downtown, transferred to another line, and got off in an aging, forgotten neighborhood on the city's east side. Storefronts were empty, windows were boarded up, and rainwater pooled in the cracked sidewalks. From across the street, I watched her carry 2 heavy, reusable grocery bags into the basement of an old church. A weathered sign out front read, "Community Dinner Fridays, 6 p.m. I exhaled. She was just making a donation, or maybe volunteering. That explains some of it. But $90 every week? No, that still didn't add up. I crossed the street and peered through a side window. What I saw made me freeze. The basement wasn't set up like a soup kitchen. It was transformed into a miniature department store. Neatly lined shelves were packed with necessities, all meticulously organized with handwritten labels. There were children's shoes, winter coats, backpacks, blankets, pots and pans, toothbrushes, diapers, and laundry detergent. And there was my mother kneeling on the floor and helping a little boy try on a pair of sneakers. The kid couldn't have been older than 8. His socks didn't match, and one of his pant legs was torn. When the shoes finally fit, his smile was so wide I thought his face might split. My mother beamed back at him. Then, reaching into one of her grocery bags, she pulled out a brand new red lunchbox covered in dinosaurs. The boy hugged it to his chest like it was pure gold. Beside him, his mother started to cry, no loud sobs, but the silent, heavy tears of someone who has been trying to hold it together for too long. My mother stood and placed a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder. "Take the blanket, too." "We already took so much," the woman whispered. "I can't pay." "I know, you took what you needed." The woman wiped her eyes as my mother handed her the blue quilt. My blue quilt, the one that had lived on our couch for my entire life. The one she had wrapped around me when I had the flu in the 3rd grade. The woman stared at it in disbelief. "Are you sure?" My mother nodded. "It kept my family warm for 30 years. Seems selfish to keep it folded up now." The confrontation, When the basement finally emptied out, I walked inside. My mother spotted me immediately. For a split second, she looked like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "I've followed you," I said. "I know," she replied, managing a tiny, weary smile. "You've always walked too loudly." I looked around the room, taking in the sheer volume of supplies. "Mom, what is this place?" She sank into a folding chair. The room suddenly felt echoing and quiet, save for the hum of the fluorescent lights and the rain tapping against the glass. "Do you remember 2009? She asked. I did. The Great Recession, the brutal layoffs, the neon foreclosure notices plastered on neighbors' doors. Your father had already passed," she continued, her voice softening. "I was working extra shifts at the cafeteria. I thought we were going to lose everything." I hadn't known. Parents hide their terror. It's what they do to protect us. "One night, I came home and found a bag hanging on our doorknob," she said. "There was bread, soup, and a grocery gift card. No note, no name. I never found out who left it, but that bag got us through the week. 2 weeks later, another one appeared." She looked at the neatly organized shelves around us. "When things finally got better, I kept thinking about whoever left those groceries. I couldn't repay them, so I started helping somebody else." "All this is from you?" I asked, stunned. "Not all," she shrugged. "Some church collections, a few donations, but the money? Mostly mine." "Mom, you can't afford this." She didn't miss a beat. "Can't afford not to." I stared at her. In that harsh basement light, she looked older than I had ever noticed. I saw the deep lines around her eyes, the severe arthritis in her hands, the quiet exhaustion she carried every single day. Then she said something that will stay with me forever. "Being poor is hard, but feeling forgotten is worse." She pointed to an empty wooden shelf near the back. "A family moved into an apartment yesterday after living in their car for 6 months. That shelf used to hold dishes. They took every plate." She smiled brightly, as if it was the best news she had heard all year. The ripple effect. I went home that night but couldn't sleep. My mind kept returning to those empty shelves, the blue quilt, and the boy with the dinosaur lunchbox. The next morning, I did the only thing I could think of. I wrote a simple post online. No fundraising campaign, no dramatic begging, just the truth. My 70-year-old mother spends money. She doesn't. Have helping strangers feel human again? If you have something useful sitting in your garage, maybe it could help someone start over. I figured a few friends might share it. I was wrong. The response was a tidal wave. Within days, our community mobilized. The donations poured in. Winter coats and boots, beds, microwaves, and dining tables, school supplies and backpacks. A hardware store donated professional shelving. A moving company offered free weekend transportation within months. The church basement expanded into 3 neighboring rooms. Then a warehouse. Then another location entirely. My mother, of course, hated the attention. She insisted she hadn't done anything special. But last month, a successful, sharply dressed woman in her 30s walked into our warehouse, carrying a framed photograph. She asked for Diane. When my mother stepped forward, the woman immediately burst into tears. "You gave me a backpack when I was 12, the woman laughed through her tears. "It was purple? It had butterflies on it. That backpack was the first new thing I had ever owned." She touched the glass of the framed photograph, which showed a young woman graduating from medical school. "I'm a pediatrician now." The room went dead silent as the doctor pulled my mother into the kind of fierce, desperate hug that carries decades of gratitude inside it. After she left, I asked my mom how she felt. She looked around at the towering shelves, the bustling volunteers, and the families browsing with dignity. "You know," she said, picking up a child's winter coat and gently smoothing the sleeve. "People think generosity starts when you have extra. It doesn't. It starts when you remember what it felt like to go without." Today, my mother's organization serves hundreds of families every year. The community calls her the founder, the director, the heart of the city. She waves off all the titles. Every Friday, she still takes the bus downtown. She still organizes the shelves herself. And every time someone tries to thank her, she points toward the door. "Don't thank me," she tells them. "Just help somebody when it's your turn." I used to think success was about building wealth, careers, or reputations, but my mother built something entirely different. She built a sanctuary, a place where strangers can walk in carrying shame and walk out carrying hope. And somehow, that is worth more than anything money could ever buy.